Free flying on a Sunday, my ticket is a one-way. I'm about to play in the sky. I always knew you'd make it one day. Today was such a fun day. And I think I'm the first. I got out, free fly, just the sky fell above.
Yeah. Welcome back to WazzyCircus Radio, a show where I sit down with the most amazing people that I've met in over a decade of professional skydiving. My guest today can easily be the most interesting man in the world. I'm not fucking kidding. His dad was a fucking fighter pilot. He became a para-rescue in the Air Force. I think that's the coolest fucking job on the planet next to the operators. I know some guys. Fuck that. That is amazing. Check it out. Grew up in Okinawa.
Whoa.
Right?
No, I didn't grow up in I spent 2 years on Okinawa as a PJ.
No, as a kid, where were you? The kid?
Oh,
was that a bullshit story?
No, it wasn't a bullshit story. It wasn't on Okinawa. Okay, you got
okay.
Right,
it was
so
in Japan.
We can straighten some things out. So do you want to finish the intro, or you?
Yeah, I'll finish the intro.
You finish the intro, and then I'll fix it.
This cat left the States to study Ishirinyu?
Close. Ishinryu karate.
Was that in Okinawa?
That was in Okinawa.
I mixed it up.
It was
I'm
an
sorry
Okinawan form of karate.
Right.
But
you went there to study that shit.
Well, I had studied Ishinryu karate in the States.
All right.
And of all places, Cleveland, Mississippi.
I hear they have great jujitsu.
Oh my God! It is a world of scholarship and liberal thinking. And there was a guy there, a brown belt, and I can't remember his name right now, but I just kept begging him to train me, and so he trained. We started training, and I did pretty well. I mean, I was an athlete. I'd been playing football, and I'd wrestled in high school.
They taught you martial arts in the Air Force?
Not really, no. They taught me how to shoot guns and put bandages on people. I mean, that's what PJs are. They're paramedics who fight.
Right.
Right. So,
You're the hero's fucking hero. Let's put it in perspective.
Well, we
man.
like to think so.
Well, the heroes think so, too.
That's
the
what
heroes
we
are there
wanted to
busting
say,
their butts. And then you save the heroes.
Well,
come on, man. Who saves the hero saver?
Well, okay.
Are there hero savers?
There are definitely hero savers, but those were people who went to war. And I want to be really clear about that.
Right.
I went into the Air Force in February of '73. Basically because I didn't know what else to do. My life was totally in the toilet.
How old were you? You were 18?
I was 22.
22.
Almost 23. I turned 23 in May while I was in my fundamental training, what we call indoctrination training now.
Had you begun your college career at this point?
That's a sad story.
I wish I would have went to the Air Force when I hit that sad point.
Air Force, I cannot recommend it enough.
Right.
It's got great technical training, and if you want it to be physically soft, you're able to get into one of those career fields. It can be physically soft. You can work in an office, or you can work on very technical aspects without having to be, just this rock hard jock.
Right.
But I came out of. I started college at 18. Short story, I was not a very good student in high school. And so my father was a naval officer. My parents had broken up. And so my stepmother wanted nothing to do with me. So I got stuck in a military school in Virginia. And that kept me out of fist fights for the most part. And I played football, and they stood over me every night to study, and that put me on the honor roll and got me into college.
Well, fuck.
So
damn.
I had a partial scholarship for football at the University of Virginia, but
what position?
I was running back.
Nice.
I was running back as a tailback, fullback. I had moderately good speed. I wasn't very big, but at the time, UVA, University of Virginia, they weren't that impressive from a football perspective. I wanted to play Southeastern Conference football. So I had connections, family connections at University of Mississippi, and so I walked on down there. Stupidest thing I ever did.
Did you get smashed up?
Oh, I got smashed up so bad. Now, I will tell you,
did.
This was in 1968. There were 28 black kids who were students, as I recall, in the entire university at that time. It had only recently been desegregated. Wow. There were no black football players. Consequently, we had no speed, but which gave me a shot.
Right.
So, I'm not going to say that was a bad thing for me, but I walked on. And I was competitive, but they only put real effort and money into their scholarship players. They did not handle walk-ons very well. But after a year and a half, I just kind of, not to put too fine a point on it, I quit going to class and I flunked out.
Yeah, it happens, man.
It happens. I spent a year as a plumber. I wound up in Detroit.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I wound up
Life
in
nuts,
Detroit, and I got a job with a guy who, I don't even know if I should say this, but it is kind of weird.
Well, I'll sit on it for a week, so if you want me to take it out, I can go
All
ahead
right,
and take it out.
so listen, dude. I come from about as much privilege as this society offers most people. I went to Detroit to work on a farm for 2 weeks in the middle of winter for my mother. My mother, when she divorced my father, who was this naval officer, and I had a great career, she remarried the president of General Motors.
Holy shit.
Yeah, holy shit. And so I was just kind of, I guess I'm going to go do this for a while. And not really I wasn't able to take advantage of it because I just wasn't very smart about it at all.
What were you studying before you ended up in Detroit?
Oh, God. I started out as pre-med because everybody on my father's side, other than my father, were doctors.
Right.
Then I think I went from pre-med, and I did okay. I didn't do badly the first year. Then I got a girlfriend. And she was gorgeous. She was this little Southern belle. And on my Facebook page, it says I majored in football, Janet, and drinking beer.
I saw that. That's Janet.
And Janet was gorgeous.
Janet.
She was
Janet
just
still
gorgeous.
around? Where's Janet now? Married with kids
She's
somewhere?
in Utah, I think, married to some Mormon dude, living on a mountain.
Right on.
Yeah, and
Doesn't
she's a
sound
nurse.
too bad.
She's a nurse. She was this bright girl. I flunked out. She was a 4.0 student.
She kept going.
She kept going. But at any rate, so there I was.
So now you are. So you're on the farm.
I was on the farm for 2 weeks. Then I moved into the big house in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and immediately, I started looking around for some opportunity. These guys came in, a plumbing company, to hook up the main sewer system and water system from the city, because they were still on a septic system out there in Bloomfield Hills. They hooked it up to the house. And I got to know the guys, and they thought, wow, this is weird. This guy, he's the son of the president of General Motors, which isn't true. I was just a stepson.
Right.
I do have a brother who is actually Ed Cole's son, and Ed was an amazing dude.
Awesome.
Brilliant, off-the-charts IQ, engineer, became president of General Motors without a college degree.
Awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
Awesome. Shout out, Ed.
So at any rate, so I asked him for a job, and he's like, rich kid.
Right.
He didn't know me. But at any rate, I was, physical. So I was a plumber for a year. And I bought a motorcycle, and as soon as it got cold again, I headed south, went down to Corpus Christi, lived with my grandmother, started writing letters to colleges, and I got a scholarship offer from Delta State College to play football. I was fat, out of shape.
Oh,
weighed 220 pounds. And
right, just chilling.
I immediately pulled a couple of hamstrings and lost my scholarship. And the next thing I knew, I went down to Key West. My dad was egressing from the Navy. And the next thing I knew, I was in the Air Force. And that's how I wound up in Para-rescue.
But God bless that.
Well, yeah, because it saved my life.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
literally
definitely.
did.
Well, I think all the things leading up to it, all the disappointments, allowed you to accept the Air Force more readily. Because if you still had like hope that maybe I could ball, I don't want to go to the Air Force, or maybe I could.
was done.
Yeah, you were done. You had to be done to move on.
I was.
Man.
But, you know, you didn't have to be a particularly fast sprinter to do the pararescue gig. It was, without question, the most physically demanding thing I have ever done in my life. I never wanted to quit. You just had this mentality while you were going through all of it, especially the indoctrination training, that they're going to have to kill me to get me
Well,
to,
you're
to
gonna
get me
have
out
to
of
do
here.
that to get through some shit.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
we went to the qualification round. We'd signed a sheet, said we're going to show up for a PT test. And this was like the first week I was in the Air Force. And, you know, we had to swim. I had to swim a mile. Well, I was over-muscled. The only thing kept me afloat was the fat I had accumulated. But by then, I was actually pretty lean again. So I was negatively buoyant. And I managed to get through the swim. I was monstrous on push-ups, pull-ups, and the run. I did fine. And two of us out of the entire crowd got in. My old roommate, Paul Columna, who became a career PJ. He and I were roommates. He was from the Dominican Republic.
DR, shout
Yeah,
out
you know,
DR.
he was like Spanish. He was black. I mean, he was this super handsome, cool dude who could dance like crazy.
Right.
And he was so handsome that we'd go out to clubs and he was like bait, you know,
Right.
because I couldn't dance at all. I was like just hopeless. But at any rate,
So
so
you tried out for PJ school immediately? Or
Yeah.
were you guys...
no,
How
this
did
was
you know-
right out of
so
base.
your
This
dad-
was in base. No, this
Your dad
was
didn't guide you on this?
no. He had nothing to do with any of that. The only thing he did was say, "Why don't you join the service?" So I interviewed with the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, and the Navy. And I'm
And why
like,
not the Navy? Your
I
father had the
just
legacy.
don't want to go on the ship, man.
Me either.
I
Me
just
neither,
didn't
dude.
want to do that. And
We were on the Lexington 2 weeks ago. I was like, I couldn't do this, dude.
well, there you go. I mean, ship
No
life, it's
way.
crowded. You know, it's a bunch of guys. It stinks. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, so the Air Force just seemed like a cooler thing. No, I was going to be a gun plumber. I was
Right.
going to work on weapons systems. And so at any rate, I went into this room and there was 200 raw recruits in this big room. And in walks this guy, and he's in jungle fatigues because Vietnam was just over. And he had this square jaw, handsome face, and he walks up to the front of the room and he turns around, and I'd only been looking at the left side of his face. The right side of his face was destroyed. He had the story was that he went down on the force penetrator. That's what PJs do after down fighter pilots in Vietnam. And the VCs sit there and they wait for that moment. And then they shoot the helicopter down over the top of the whole shebang.
Oh.
And it fell on him, and he got whacked, and it just, his
By
entire...
the fucking blade?
By the blade, and the entire right side of his face had been rebuilt. His name was John Hoberg. And this guy gave
Shout
a
out
talk.
John Hoberg.
And John was so impressive. He had, here he was broken in this way, and he was talking out of the side of his face, and he had so much power. It was just, if you're a young
You
guy.
were what, 20 fucking 2,
I was
23?
22 years old at the time. I looked at that and I go,
That's who I want
I want that.
be.
I want
I'm
that so
guy.
bad. So I signed one
Yeah.
list, and that got me to the PT test with about 100 guys, and two of us came out of that whole gaggle of guys, Paul and myself.
So, soldier, doctor, soldier.
You're
Medic.
a warrior medic, is what you are.
So
And
are you legal bait on the battlefield? Like, like a medic you shouldn't attack.
oh, you got guns, man.
So,
You're armed, and no, you're armed. You come down on the force penetrator armed with med kit.
Right.
You're definitely
resort,
there
baby.
to do war and to fix people.
Right.
And I mean, it's a great career field. I have nothing but respect for Para-rescue and the whole. I'm still, I still go to the reunions,
Nice.
and I see guys I've known. I'm going to Larry Henderson's thing in Dallas this
Shout
weekend.
out Larry Henderson.
Yeah.
He's Para-rescue also?
No. You know Larry Henderson.
I love Larry.
Yeah. No, Larry is organizing 42 Ways. He's been doing this stuff for years. And I
He's
used to
doing it
go
when
for a
I worked
long
in
time.
Dallas.
Yeah, I hadn't been in a couple of years, but he invited me back, so I'm
Nice.
going up there. And one of my best buddies from California, Tom Baronic, Tom's a monster. Tom was a career PJ who transitioned from Para-rescue, just the Para-rescue teams, to JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command. So he was teamed up with SEALs and Army Special Forces, Marines, Marine Recon. I mean, the JSOC teams, to this day, and he's been out for a long time, he's been retired, he won't tell me what he did. He can't. He's covered under the Official Secrets Act, and he respects it to the max. But
hitters.
he will, say things like, "Yeah, we went into a situation we hadn't slept in 48 hours," and and it's just stuff I can't talk about. And he sticks to that. But he'll be up there. And Tom was an AFF instructor at the Air Force Freefall School, and so he still skydives. I say, we're both. I'm 69, he's 67,
Right.
and we both stay in great shape.
Yep.
I mean, I used to say that my goal was just, be a monster, be buff, be tough, learn to fight, and just be as tough as. I'm just trying to die slower now.
Yeah, right.
Because, I mean, you're 43. You haven't really felt it yet.
Are you kidding me?
But I got to tell you.
Probably not the 69, but I felt the 43.
Well, it's coming, babe. It's coming.
I know.
And what I regret most is football from the destruction point of view.
I was going to ask you, any concussions, any long-lasting effect? I know you did. Back in the day, you guys went hard.
Oh, my God. I was a red shirt at Ole Miss, and I can remember, and I was not very big. I had moderate speed, but I was so tough back then. And I pay a price for being that tough. Because I'd go through the line, and I remember going through the line in spring training as a red shirt, and there was a guy named Hap Farber, who I knew Hap because his dad had been a classmate of my dad's at the Naval Academy. And there he was a varsity senior linebacker at Ole Miss. He was very tough. And I just put my head down, I put it on his belt buckle, and I hit him with, at least I think I hit him with all the force I could muster, because the next thing I remember was waking up in his arms, being carried back to the offensive side. And I said, what's going on? Yeah. And the coach, you know what the coach said? You better sit one out.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's it. You better sit one out. And so I sat one or two out, and then I was right back in. I was seeing stars all the time. Now the concussion protocol
is getting better.
Is much better than it used to be. But
because you played back in the day.
That takes me to a different moment, and it's a political moment, if this is okay.
Dude, it's my show.
Okay. So if you go through my Facebook pages, you remember when the kneeling for the national anthem with the pros came down?
There we go. Yes, sir.
And, I'm looking at that, and I've got all this military guys who are my Facebook buddies and friends. And I'm looking at that. And it probably has something to do with the fact that I've been in academia since 1996. My views
have shifted.
You grow as a human being if you stay alert and engaged. You don't try to stay the same. You allow yourself to learn from what you experience. And I'm looking at that demonstration, and I'm looking at all the hullabaloo and, Trump getting on it and doing the stuff he does, whatever you want to call that.
Right.
And I'm going, wait a minute. This is a peaceful protest. This is what America is about. This is what all of my military friends who actually went to war were actually fighting for. Right. The freedom to peacefully have this exhibition of disagreement.
Right.
And if there was any pure, exposition of freedom, I mean, tell me where the hell it is.
Right.
So, in any case, I do run afoul of a lot of my friends, but I put it on Facebook, and oh my God.
Did it come down?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
it just kept coming in. The crazy, it's like when I do anything on religion, and it just comes back, and and it becomes Jesus lives. Fuck you, Jeff. Like what?
What? Did you even hear what I said?
I mean, come on. And I'm trying to be as mild and as tempered as I am.
You're pretty fucking mild, Jeffy.
I'm trying to be generous with people and give them allow them to think about things.
So let's go back to your childhood in Japan.
Sure. So
I'm sorry. I said okay.
No, that's okay.
What
So my old man was a naval officer, and he was a fighter pilot in Korea.
Okay.
And so eventually my family moved to, we came into Yokohama, which is a harbor in Japan, and then we lived in Yokosuka. And I lived, he wanted to impress my mother, who was not easy to impress, but she was going along with the deal. You're moving me and these two kids to Japan.
Trust me, I had to do it to Austin.
Oh,
I can't imagine.
Japan.
Right.
What this was in it's either 53, 54,
was that
53.
7-8 years after the fucking.
Yeah, we dropped 2 nuclear weapons on Japan. It was after the war ended.
46.
No. This is we dropped. Well, 45 is. I think it was July or August of 45. August of 45.
Okay.
So it wasn't that long, and I was like 4, and there were no American kids out there, and there was this Japanese family that lived in a house that was maybe 100 yards away, and they were farmers. They were rice farmers, and it was just an amazing sort of existence. And they had a little kid about my age, and he and we're 4. We don't speak that good of English or Japanese, and we got along absolutely fine. We played in the rice paddies. We played the pollywogs. I recently got...
What is a pollywog?
It's just the larval stage of frogs.
Frogs. Okay,
yeah,
pollywogs.
Yeah, pollywogs. They got tails, and then they get a little older, and you see the feet growing. And we'd collect them and, watch them swim around and put them back, or, take them home and let them die.
Kids,
we're kids, so we don't know any better. But I had a great time with that kid, and I could. Okay, his name was Tatsuo. It's total bullshit.
Tatsuo.
Tatsuo. But I got to call him something.
You don't remember his name?
Nah, I don't remember his name. I was 4.
Yeah, you're 4.
Yeah, his name was something. Yeah. So, at any rate.
So,
I was there for 3 years, by the way.
Okay, so you're really big into meditation now.
I am.
Has it been a whole life thing from your roots?
Well, I got to tell you. When I got out of the Air Force, because when I was in the Air Force and I was jumping out of airplanes, just as a preamble to that. So you're a younger skydiver. I'm sure you love hearing that.
Yeah.
So
I'm the oldest dude at the DZ. Next to Doug
no,
Shaw.
not when you're at my
Not when I'm at
DZ. I mean, you got George Nissen
Spaceland,
over
you
there.
guys.
I mean, he's 74.
Yeah.
George is
Spaceland
actually,
San Marcos.
he's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
hero.
He's
Friend of the show. He's been on the show.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's a chopper pilot.
He was a chopper
He's a
pilot in
fucking
Vietnam.
Scout. He was a scout in Vietnam.
I know.
Holy
I know.
shit.
No, he's an amazing guy, and he's still learning and growing in the sport. I mean,
Motherfucker flies a Valkyrie.
he flies a Valkyrie. He can't get enough, and I'm like,
He cannot get enough.
I'll go out there on a Saturday about 10 a.m. He's been there since Friday, jumping his butt off. And I think the reason of that is he really wasn't a football player. I think football and martial arts and the really vigorous stuff that some of it I did in the military. I ran hard for 20 years. It's just I'm a orthopedic nightmare. Systemically, I'm diamonds, but orthopedically, I mean, this shoulder, I'm looking at shoulder surgery.
You and I both.
I've had 2 back surgeries. I wake up in the morning and I'm just, you go through this inventory. Okay, what's working?
So have you, as a chemist,
the
anti-aging movement, chemicals like Enamin or resveratrol?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do all of that.
So you?
I've read. There was a Harvard study on the resveratrol.
Right.
They did this study. They were feeding mice extraordinary amounts of resveratrol, which you find in the skin of red grapes. So you have a very tiny amount in red wine, and I think it all came from the Mediterranean diet, and people were sort of looking at people who were on these diets living longer lives and being somewhat healthier in their older years. So all these studies started to go on. Resveratrol had this study. It hasn't really panned out, but I haven't given up on it. I still buy extraordinary amounts of supplements. I've got, as soon as I started studying chemistry, I was 46.
When you started chemistry?
Yeah, when I started chemistry. I mean, look, dude.
Good for you, man.
Dude, I was in California, acting had just fizzled. It wasn't that I still didn't do a little bit of it here and there.
How many movies did you do?
Oh, God, I did shit.
You did a bunch of movies.
No, I did not.
What was that movie? What's that Western? Highlands?
No. The Western I did was a no-budget film called Heathens.
Heathens.
My God. Let's just better left that.
Okay.
Let that
You're
die.
lucky I didn't do enough
It was on
research how
Blip
to play
TV
that
for
shit
years,
right now.
and I'm like,
Fine
oh, God.
Heathens, ladies and gentlemen.
What I got were some good pictures of me in Western garb as the sheriff. But it all started. I told you before that I was lucky. I got to L.A. I'd done some acting in Dallas, and I was in a movie. Called I can't think of the name of it right now. It was a killer dog movie, and I had a small part. But it got me in the Screen Actors Guild and in AFTRA. And so it got me in the unions. So I went to L.A., and within a month, I started sending out resumes and pictures. And within a month, I got a call from a guy named J. Michael Bloom. And J. Michael's office called me, said, J. Michael would like to interview. So I was like, sure, okay. And so I went there to his office, and I talked to him for a bit. And I said, well, I'm not going to sign you. I don't do that. But I'll send you out on some auditions and see how you do. So I got a call a few days later to go audition for Star Search.
Fucking Star Search.
Star Search, man. It was the first year I was on, I believe. Ed McMahon was still alive. He was the host.
Holy shit. You got to meet Ed McMahon?
Oh, yeah.
Yo, most of our fucking viewers have no idea what we're talking about. Star Search was the first American Idol without the phone-in calls. Like, Star Search, there were judges and shit, right?
There were judges, and they were, they were friends of Sam Riddle, who was the producer of Star Search. He'd just get people to come in and be judges. Wow. And so, they sent me a script, and I went in and did a scene with Sally Struthers, and she was so cool. Most people won't know who Sally Struthers is. She was on an old show called All in the Family, and she was the hot blonde who was kind of crazy, and she was a little older and. It didn't look exactly the same, but she was still Sally, and she was just absolutely wonderful. And I did this scene with her, and this guy named Clayton Norcross was the champion. He had won the week before, and so we filmed. What you have to do, since it's a competition and it's taped, is you film me winning and him losing, you film him winning,
shit.
me losing,
Yeah, back in
and
the
then
day.
Sally standing in the middle, and she's just squeezing my hand. She's just squeezing my hand while we're doing these different tapes, and she just got a secret glance when the cameras weren't on. I think you won, and I did. I won.
You
I
fucking won.
I won.
You
yeah,
fucking won
yeah,
Star
yeah.
Search,
I
yeah,
won.
big
I
bang.
won one episode of Star Search.
Shut the fuck up. That's
2 weeks
awesome.
later, I came down. I totally shut down. I did a scene with Joan Van Ark, who was from Knots Landing.
Knots Landing? Holy shit,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
Dallas
And
days.
I just embarrassed
The
myself.
Dynasty days.
Oh yeah, the Dynasty days. I didn't come out of my
Dallas.
apartment for a month. I was
Oh,
so
no way.
humiliated.
Hey, but hold on. Back in the day, there wasn't internet, so that was a big deal.
It was a
People
real
fucking knew
big
who you were.
deal. I had people all over the country wanting to
Restaurants.
see me. I got recognized at Paris Valley. I remember
Mm-hmm.
sitting in a bar. I used to jump with a group, Steve Fielding. Steve
Uh-huh.
Fielding was a famous jumper in Paris. He had a big group of people. We all, we did 30 ways out of DC-3s, and it was
nice.
just awesome. We had such a good time, and they were such a great group of people. Some of them you might know, but I heard that episode where I lost playing in the bar, and we were sitting in the
no.
restaurant at the end of the day, and I'm going, oh no. Oh, it's on. And
sucks.
there it was. And I saw the waitress. She came in. She's standing in between. She's looking at
No way.
the TV, looking
that's
at
funny.
me,
That's
looking
kinda
at the
cool.
TV. And then I lost.
Yeah, that
And she
sucks.
stopped looking at me.
Oh,
yeah, I know, it
no
broke my heart.
way.
Yeah, it broke my heart.
No way.
Yeah, really.
Dude, you're on TV in LA and you're sitting there. That's still a big fucking deal.
Not when you make a fool of yourself, which I might be doing right
That's
now.
no way. Hey, when'd you start jumping?
1973, I went to, as part of my para-rescue pipeline training, I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, spent 3 weeks with the Army, which was, it was great. I had a great time at Fort Benning, but we were the 7 para-rescue guys. So we stayed in our own place. And I got to tell you, I got to hand it to the Army guys. In the Air Force, we had air-conditioned barracks.
Right.
We had many times our own rooms. Only Paul and I roomed together the entire pipeline, just because we liked each other. Paul was a great guy. He is still. But the Army, those guys were stuffed into these rooms. It was July in Georgia.
Oh.
It was so primitive.
I was just in Georgia in July. It is not a
It's
pretty place.
miserable.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we were in, getting sawdust down your pants. And so, after that, I didn't jump
Wait,
again.
what did you just say? You're getting sawdust
Sawdust-
down your
yeah,
pants.
you-
What the
you
fuck
do-
does that mean? I was like, I just stood
So
there like, why
let
the
me ask you this.
fuck?
So when you went through, how did you get into skydiving, Waz? What did you do? Did you tandem, AFF?
No, I did an IAD course.
Okay.
Instructor assisted deployment.
Okay, fine.
Saturday morning.
So when you went through your initial training,
Mm-hmm.
did you do PLFs?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this dude did not want to teach the course. I think he was just filling in. He was sweating profusely. That's all I remember, man.
That sounds wonderful.
And, and I thought he was the greatest skydiver ever until I got to know him. I was like, he's a fucking guy. Yeah, dude, our course was shit. Our course was such
I'm
shit.
so sorry.
Yeah, it was so bad.
I used to teach that course too.
I taught that course for like 5 years
Yeah.
straight. Every weekend. I loved it.
No,
I loved it.
did I do?
I became an IAD instructor. Jay Stokes did my course.
No, okay. No, I didn't. Okay, I didn't do IAD. I mean, I was a static
Static
line jump
line.
master.
Yeah, that's nutty.
And
That's crazy.
yeah,
Like, go ahead and crawl out. I'm going to get this bag.
all right. But anyway, so I didn't
that's
jump
funny.
again after Fort Benning because we went to Navy scuba school. I mean, this
you
was
live
such a cool gig.
Yeah, you live life.
Oh, I
Yeah.
live life. We went to Navy scuba school. We were there for a month out in San Diego, and it just rocked. It was the Navy
Yeah.
was so cool, except that we had to do our scuba dives in the harbor, and it was like, there was the dive barge. You'd go and you'd take a dump on the dive barge, and then you would flush the toilet, and then you'd run to the side of the barge to watch stuff come out of the dive barge, and then we would do our qual dives in there, our training dives. But in any case, and then went up to Washington.
You would literally shit on the dive bar?
You know what? I keep thinking this can't be the way that it is. They've got to treat it somehow. But I had this terrible problem with middle ear infections only there. Oh. And fortunately, this one guy who was with us, this PJ trainee who had cross-trained, he had a big bottle of tetracycline, which is a broad spectrum antibiotic. And I was just eating tetracycline like crazy to keep this under control because I'd be set back in my training. I would be out of the school, medically discharged from the school, if I couldn't keep this under control.
So you're eating tetracycline and laughing shit goes by.
That's right. And so we got out of that. We went up to Washington. We did the prisoner of war training, survival school, the Sierra School,
well,
all of that.
No joke.
Just had so much fun.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. And I got to pull a prank on my roommate. So in the Sierra School, they put you in solitary confinement. And you're there for 18, 20 hours, something like that. Peeing in a can, things like that.
So real quick, to just give some background. Sears School is where a soldier goes to learn how to be caught by the enemy.
Learn how to deal with being caught.
So you try to evade, but they're going to catch your ass and they're going to throw you in a fucking locker.
Right.
Beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, they're gonna torture you in some
sleep deprivation. Ways. It's like fucking hell. But you sound like you had a great time.
Oh, you know what? I have to think that the SEALs went through a much more intense version of it, because we had regular officers going through this training and some pretty soft folks, and so for us, most of this kind of stuff was pretty easy. Okay. They let us out at midnight. We go through this obstacle course. At the end of it, it's mandatory that you get caught. Then you get a bag put over your head. Okay, is this secret shit?
Yeah. Let's not go any further, just in case.
Anyway,
just because there's new guys.
At any rate,
we don't want to.
So they do this series of interrogations when you're in solitary confinement, and I pulled some actor stuff. I'd go in and I'd be shell shocked, and I go, and they thought it was pretty good. So it was like dawn, and they pulled me out. And they took me around the side, and they broke training. And what they say is academic situation. Right. And they said, "Okay, we liked what you did in your interrogations. We're going to make you the collaborator."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I went, and I was like,
"Oh, yeah, perfect! You're like the best gig
That's
ever."
Right. And then,
as an actor, I know you were like, "This is my chance.
This is cool."
Oh, that's cool.
So at any rate,
cool.
I had absolutely no qualms about. I'm so ashamed of myself. So at any rate, the next phase was after the solitary confinement portion, and they have ways of torturing you which are real torture. And I won't reveal that, but it was massively uncomfortable for me. And it actually made me cry a couple of times because I kept getting caught being asleep in my cube. Right. But at any rate,
I've never heard anything soft about any of these people.
It was pretty, that part really got me.
Yeah.
So we went to the camp. So now you're in an open camp, and you have to organize. So everybody's there. You organize. I became the camp medic. And I also, so you have your covert committee, and you have your, and then the overt stuff. I also got put on the covert committee as on the escape committee.
That's fucked up.
It's so fucked up. And I thought about that, and I'm like, oh my God, should I be doing this? And so my roommate, Paul Columna, I love this guy, Paul. Yeah. He said, Jeff, you're on the escape committee. I know what to do. I can escape.
You're such a dick.
I know. And he said, I need a kit. and you had to give them to escape. You had to have permission. You got a kit, so I gave him a kit, and then I turned him in.
Oh, you
and he
fucking
got
piece
caught.
of shit.
And so he got
Oh,
caught.
you
He got,
fucking piece of
beat around, and then
Oh, he got beat around.
and then,
What was his name?
then, Paul.
Fucking Paulie.
Yeah, I know. Paul.
Yeah, I
So
know.
anyway, my buddy from the Dominican Republic.
Oh, fucking Paul, the
Paul,
dancer dude.
my
Oh,
roommate.
That was
man.
some jealousy
He's my-
bullshit.
Yeah, well, guess what?
What?
So
Paul.
finally,
I got your back, dog.
he's
He
back
was
in
bullshit.
camp, and he says, "Okay, I got it this time."
He's gonna escape your dick. No.
I gave
Jeff.
him another one.
Oh!
And he got caught. He wound up in a bamboo cage in the center of the camp, horizontal in a bamboo cage.
Did you not feel any fucking remorse?
Oh, I did. I felt,
Did he ever
I
find
think
out?
I went too far.
Did he
Oh,
ever find out?
yeah, of course, but not right away. He didn't know. So,
You're his fucking buddy.
I am totally
from the
his
club.
buddy. I'm a total traitor, man. I was a total traitor. So I will tell you this.
Well, what did you get for doing it?
Huh?
Why? It was
I was
fun.
it was my
fun.
job
It was
in the
my
scenario.
job. It was
My
role.
job. It was my
I will not
role. I
break
had to
character,
do
Mr.
it.
Director.
I would be breaking training
You'd be
if I
breaking
hadn't
character,
done.
you
I
fucking
would.
actor
I know. I was a total
motherfucker.
dick. I was just such a dick. But I will tell you.
Was that frowned upon, or was it like hoorah?
I have no idea.
Because
They didn't tell me
you should
whether
have been
what
team fucking first, but then you were like team first because it's your team, but it's not your team because they're the captors.
I'm training people. I became a trainer,
Jesus.
or part of the training apparatus. But
Fucking Mcvey.
but I got to tell you, at the end of this thing, by this time, by the next day, dawn is just about to happen. We're rebelling. We're all just complete toast, and everybody was pissed. Even the collaborator was pissed.
Right.
And so these guys, they were so in character, and they were so great about it. They line us up. They stick us, get us in formation. They're yelling at us.
Right.
The sun comes up. The Star Spangled Banner starts playing, and the American flag goes up the pole, and you got, a couple hundred guys just
Weeping.
And
you knew
you're so full of love of country. It's
Because
just,
it was your flag. going up
it's
the
our
pole.
flag, and you love the country, and it's exactly the perfect thing to do.
Beautiful.
It was a gorgeous, magnificent, transformative experience, which is why I get so much shit when I do things like defend the kneeling at pro football games.
Of an American. It's all it is. It's
But
an
I
American.
think that's what it's defending. I mean,
Right.
you're defending the right to do that. And
Canada doesn't have a First Amendment right. Neither does
No, I don't know
Mexico
that.
or Brazil. Like, we're like the only ones that have a freedom of speech. Hong Kong does not have a freedom of speech.
almost nobody does.
No,
I
that
mean-
is what we have.
I mean, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is the most precious thing to have.
Right.
And
watch-
I'm all about the freedom
And
of speech.
watch what happens when you take it from somebody. It boils over in the shootings.
Oh.
If you take any group, I don't care if it's white supremacists, black supremacists, immigrants, if you take away their voice and try to tell them that they're non-citizens kind of because of their beliefs. I mean, we should address it all. We should hear it all. But putting a pot on it's going to make it boil over into violence.
I agree with you, and
Regardless of you.
because when people don't have a voice, rebellion
Is the only option.
is the option that surfaces, and it's happened before.
Right.
Having lived to the age of 69 and gone through the Cold War, and
Which is still going on. They're still in the elections.
it's true. I mean, it was troublesome there, but it seemed, honestly, it was real because two countries had nuclear weapons. They began to develop the ability where we could actually annihilate each other and ourselves.
others.
And
Right.
you're depending on a protocol called mutually assured destruction, MAD.
MAD,
That
right.
was the strategy, is how we keep from killing each other. And it actually did work, but it sure was dangerous a lot of times. As an elementary school kid, we watched videos of nuclear weapons detonating. We did duck and cover. Right. Duck and cover. There was a song. There was a damn song. So the country is, and if you go back far enough, we fought a civil war. Right. We had slavery. Right. The country... I'm more optimistic than most people, even with this particular evolution. Things are so much better than they were.
We're kicking ass every day.
I know. We're kind of going a little bit backwards right now on some things, but you know what? I think as long as the system is resilient enough, it can recover from almost anything.
Look at where we came from.
I know.
You're on my show right now, and we're talking about skydiving. Look at where look at the opportunities I've had personally. Like, it's getting better. My kids are going to live in a world that's so much better than mine, and I'm kicking ass right now.
Right.
I came from shit. Everything was hard, but now it's better. And I believe years from now, it's just getting better, man. We just have to go through growing pains. That's all it is.
I agree.
This country has never really faltered. It's moved forward. Even desegregation sounds like a bad word. It had to happen.
My family's from Mississippi.
Right.
I as a child visited, it was so peculiar. My grandfather was a country doctor. Mm-hmm. And there were 4 kids, my father, my uncle, my 2 aunts. They're all dead now. But, my father came from Lambert, Mississippi, a small Mississippi town. And he had the kind of attitudes. He's a smart guy. But he had the kind of attitudes that you would expect from somebody from Mississippi.
Who grew up that way, was taught that way. How do you hold it against the guy?
It's almost child abuse to bring kid up with such polarized views, because then it's just something they have to overcome. Right. But here's the deal. I remember on one particular visit, and I couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, we went back to Lambert, and we'd periodically do that to see my grandfather, my grandmother. And my dad said, "Come on, get in the car." So I went and got in the car with him. We're going to have a father-son moment. He drove down onto the black side of town. And I got to tell you, it was very different than the white side of town.
The side of the tracks.
Oh, it was just poor.
It's still like that.
I know it is. I was there when I was 18, 19, and got out of there around 20. But in any case, we went up to this one house, this old ramshackle house, and out comes this enormous black woman, and she sees my father, and just, "Mr. Jeff," and the tears, and him, this guy, who I'd never really expected to see this from, with a black person, is sobbing uncontrollably. This woman raised him.
That was his mammy.
That was his nanny, mammy.
His mammy, yeah.
Yeah, she raised him, and there was so much love. There's such a connection there. And then yet to have this envelope of prejudice and low expectations.
That's the way it was.
It was. And so, he and I, as I got older and became much more aware in my teens and 20s, and he and I would have some pretty, especially after he retired, we'd have some pretty fierce arguments. And he honestly tried to try them on. But when you're looking at the world through this filter, anything that anybody does that fits with that old pattern is just going to reinforce that pattern, and you're going to say, "See, it's like people looking at Chicago right now, and all the violence in Chicago, and people that are against any kind of sensible effort at gun control. I live on a ranch. I have guns." Right. We have a slow police response. No offense, police. Yeah. A lot can happen in 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Right.
So yeah, but nevertheless, I mean, look at the craziness that this goes on. I mean, are you telling me that there's nothing to do? Are you telling me that we can't even try to come up with some kind of sensible protocol for dealing with this? And no, let's just keep things the same. And I'm like,
Yeah, well,
that's
what do you
exhausting to
do?
me.
Well, it's exhausting the other way too. Any solutions I've heard, any real solutions that they try to put forth, it's just
I know.
so hard, man.
I mean, the one in
Everyone
El
wants to
Paso,
go-
like that,
right.
he
Drove down
bought it
from Dallas.
legally.
He drove down from. It's not even from the community in El Paso. It's
Yeah.
somebody from outside the community. What do you do? And that's from the taking someone's voice conversation we were having earlier.
Yeah.
That dude didn't have an outlet. He never heard. They explode. It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, Trump wouldn't have. I don't want to go on this rant, but he wouldn't have.
Fire
all
away.
these people. Well, if there wasn't a problem, there's no way he could fire him up. So obviously there's something going on that hasn't been addressed. We need to address it. People need to speak. You're in academia. Aren't they like stripping free speech like crazy in the colleges? Don't you have to be like
A little careful.
right, a little careful?
But well, here's the deal.
How Sam Harris, one of the
Yeah, I know.
we're both fans of him.
Yeah,
How he was launched in over controversy over free speech.
right. I mean, and he's. I don't know that he seeks it out. Sam has got so much integrity in my mind
Well,
that he says his mind.
Yeah, it's not that he seeks it out. He just sees it and calls it. Period.
Calls
It's
it what it is,
Yeah.
and says, let's try and take a look at this as objectively as a human being is capable of looking at a particular controversial topic. Very fairly. And so people that find Sam a racist, I mean, as particular issues, I mean, obviously the religion thing is a huge deal for Sam, and he said some things. He famously said some things on Bill Maher's show, in which he got into a controversy or a conversation with Ben Affleck on Islam, and I remember, Ben Affleck. Didn't he make that movie about getting the journalists out of Iran during the hostage situation? And so he's probably made a lot of contacts, and so the context for his fiercely defensive posture, I think, probably is operating out of some of those relationships and loyalties that he has. But Sam Harris is one of the least race conscious people I've ever listened to.
But you have to listen to more than a blip or a soundbite. You have to listen to what he said before and after, like anything else.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So let's get back.
Yeah, fire away.
First sport jump.
Okay, so here I am on Okinawa. Okay. I've got scuba jumps. And that's all we did in Okinawa just about is we did scuba jumps. I've got about 60 open water scuba jumps because it was easy to do them in Okinawa.
How'd you mark the land, the LZ? Was it like some dye in the water?
Yeah, you had a boat. You had a boat and they'd throw I'm trying to remember exactly what they put out there, but certainly you had the boat down there, and you could spot with the boat. And we did the whole wind drift indicator. You did pass. We did a pass with the wind drift indicator.
So you guys get at full altitude, or you guys low 1,500 static line in it?
Operational altitude was 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet.
Rounds?
15 rounds. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
35-foot parabolic AP-28S-17. Big equipment carrying canopies, because sometimes you had to carry a fair amount of gear.
Right.
But in any case, so, I just got into Okinawa, and we I got acclimated to the whole situation, even had a mission or two. And there's this thing called the Okinawa Marine Sport Parachute Club. The Marines would bring a Chinook or a CH-46, the twin
Giant
rotors
chopper,
things. Yeah. And I said, well, I had wanted to skydive since Ripcord in the 50s. And then in 1968, I was mesmerized by an old movie called Gypsy Moth. I remember
Moth.
I'm Gypsy Moth.
Gypsy Moth. I've seen Gypsy Moth.
I walked into the theater. It was in Oxford, Mississippi, with popcorn and drink, and here was here was the opening sequence with the flags, you know, the gas station flags and all of that. And I went, I got to do that. Right. It was 5 years later that I actually got to do it. But they didn't have and there was no AFF back then. They didn't have a USPA instructor in Okinawa. So you already had to have been trained as a USPA skydiver to skydive with the Okinawa Marine Sport Parachute Club. So I went, okay. So I ordered a logbook from USPA. I went to the base library. I wasn't going to be stupid about it. And I got this book by a guy named Russ Gunby, who was a style and accuracy guy. I don't even know, you know what style was.
Style and accuracy.
Okay, so anyway, I read the book, and then I got another PJ, Gary Miller, who had 60 jumps.
What year was this?
To show me, this is 1970.
This is
74
1974 fucking YouTube skydiving.
Well, there was nothing like that.
Yeah, you went to the library and got some dude.
I got a book.
Same fucking thing.
Book. Yeah, that's exactly
Same
right.
exact fucking
So
thing.
I took the logbook
Hell
and
yeah,
I
you did.
faked in my training, and I didn't go out. I didn't do anything crazy. I gave myself 3 static line successful jumps.
But you've had what, 40 jumps by now?
I had some jumps. I mean, I probably not more than 20, 25.
You don't know the right correct body position. You don't know fucking anything.
Well, we didn't do the free fall body.
Yeah, you
frog.
Up in the fucking,
no, we 1,000. That was something.
You face down, face modified.
No, we
face
were
down,
all
modified
jumping out in the airborne style. So I took my I joined USPA. I got a USPA card, and I presented my logbook, and I showed up. And the president of the club at the time was a guy named Captain Wesley Fox, who was a Marine Corps Medal of Honor winner. He looked the part, square jaw. He was Sergeant Rock, only he was a captain at that point in time, you know, a career Marine. And he's an incredible dude. But he looked at my logbook, my USPA card, and he just smiled.
He saw right through your
He saw right through me. He said, okay. And so they had some static line rigs. So I did 2 more static lines. I did 2 hop and pops, 1 10-second delay. And the next thing I did was I scooted out on my ass out of an OV-10 at 15,000 feet.
What's an OV-10?
An OV-10 was a forward air control aircraft. It had a slim fuselage, which has like it's an ice box. It's just and there's like 4 or 5 guys there, butt to nut, against each other. One goes out, then the other guy goes out, then the other guy goes out. We're scooting on our ass. You're sitting down.
Yeah.
And it's shiny metal.
What rigs were you jumping? Was it piggyback or was it still belly mount?
Oh, no. I had a belly mount reserve and an altimeter. Yeah. And I got out of the airplane and I started to spin. I got on my face and I immediately started.
They briefed you obviously on when they were doing the hop and pops. They're like, dude, you gotta fucking do this.
I practiced in my dorm on my bed. I got zero training.
Right.
I just pretended I knew what I was doing.
That's how I learned a lot of shit.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'd spin one way and I had practiced. Right. And so I just counter the turn. Right. And I was in a style tuck. I was doing this kind of stuff.
Of course you were.
Yeah,
you read the fucking book.
That's the book. Yeah, I'm doing this stuff.
You're a free fall and style and accuracy guy.
That's right. And eventually, guess what? After about 4 iterations of that, because you got some time for $15,000.
Right. You kind of opened up. It just
stopped. The spin stopped, and I went, oh.
Sounds like my
wow, check altitude.
Oh,
don't forget. And the problem was that the pilots spotted it, and they really weren't very good at it. You know,
right.
We're going on a green light, red light thing.
You're a fucking soldier too.
Yeah, and so they put us out over a part of the island that was off the DZ, and the altitude was a little bit different. And you had grounded your altitude, zeroed it at the DZ, and so I'm falling and I'm seeing stuff start moving around me. And I'm going, you know what? I don't know.
Right. Ripcord.
I just pulled the ripcord and got under my canopy and landed fine. And
So your home DZ is Okinawa.
that was my starting place.
That was the starting point. How many jumps you got now?
You know what? I stopped logging at about 2,500, and that was a long, long time ago.
Right.
I worked for a lot of companies, so I worked out in Taft. I worked at Cal City,
You got
and
12,
they would get
15,000?
No.
10?
I have been saying 7,500 to 7,600 for the last 15 years.
Okay, so for the last 4 years,
I-
I've been saying
and
4
I-
to 5,000. Same thing.
Here's the deal.
It don't fucking matter.
I'm not jumping that much anymore. Like I go out. Yeah, it used to be. I mean, I was a working skydiver. I had a demo company, so I was doing demos.
Right.
I had a buddy of mine, Teresha Thames. She and I would train people in L.A. who would call my Yellow Pages ad, Skydive L.A., and we'd train them on a Friday night in Los Angeles, take them up to Taft, and jump them.
I'm doing that now with WazzyCircus with Learn to Skydive Austin.
Oh, there you go.
So,
See?
but I do it at the
Same
tunnel.
idea.
I do the first jump course at the tunnel.
That's the way to do
Put
it.
the rig on them. We go do my course is so dope. My students are so good. Hey man, shout out to
Dude.
all my students, man. You make my life easy, dude. I've done those AFFs with the walk off the street. I'll never do that shit again.
I got to tell you, there's a part of me that just hates you, Waz. I mean,
Well, thank you,
I mean, with a lot of love.
Yeah, I
with
know
a lot of
it.
love.
I know it.
I mean, when the tunnel opened, I immediately because my first tunnel was Las Vegas, and that was back in the '80s.
Fucking A.
And I was in
Well, it
that
was new
where you
then.
wore the balloon suit,
still
and
there.
it got hot in there. It was just a miserable tunnel. And they had the pads because it has a column, and if you fall off the column, you plummet.
Yeah.
And so that was
Dude,
my
we have a
first
trip planned there for like 12 people. We're gonna go boogie there.
at the Las Vegas tunnel.
Fuck yes.
It's an awful place.
It's a beautiful place. If you're a tunnel flyer, a true tunnel flyer, that is a vintage machine. That's like seeing a Stingray Corvette. We're gonna go fly that Stingray.
I would suggest that it's less like the Corvette Stingray and more like a Model T Ford, dude.
Well, even fucking better, Jeff. Even better, Jeff.
No, it's
Come on, man. That's
it's like flying in prop wash because
Right,
guess
it
what?
is. It's a
You're flying
prop.
in prop
But
wash.
for a tunnel rat that flies in the most advanced tunnels with the most highly trained engineers fine tuning these things monthly, I would love to drive the Model T. I don't need a Tesla to take me everywhere.
I
I
got
want to
it.
shift some shit,
Yeah,
you know? Put
I
on a baggy suit.
know.
I want to do a backflip off the wall, back into the wind. You know, they do cool shit.
I did that.
Did you?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
cool
I mean
shit.
that was it because back
That's
then
cool shit,
I was
son.
physical and I was cool and I wasn't that hurt. And I do 10, 12 jumps in a day.
Right.
I could get in the tunnel and go as long as I needed to, except that tunnel, your lungs start to get seared because the air gets so hot.
So
Yeah, it
when you
gets
when
so
you
hot.
saw Austin, how did you feel?
Well, I did a tunnel camp in 2001.
Eloy?
No,
Or
this was in
Fairfield?
Orlando. I actually
Orlando,
flew out
okay,
there to do
cool.
it with airspeed
Uh-huh.
because I had just gotten accepted to the world record, the 300 way.
Okay.
And the 300 way had started out, it was going to be in Brazil. I was going, so I went, I had to audition. I mean, I was a nobody from a Texas drop zone. A few people knew me. I'd been around. I'd been on some fairly low grade world record attempts, or
Yeah,
at
the
least
232
one.
way.
I was on one of Roger Nelson's out in Lake Wales, and it was not a great attempt. It was fun.
Shout
That was
out to
in
the
like
Nelson family.
95, I think. 94 maybe.
Shout out to Rook Nelson. Shout out to the Nelsons. Sugar Alpha.
Yeah, yeah.
love
I
it.
mean,
We're not
yeah,
gonna- we have enough time.
absolutely,
Let's keep going, yeah.
absolutely. Listen,
keep
Roger, I got to tell you, Roger was an extraordinarily interesting guy.
Yes.
He'd been in prison, and
Yep.
it was just kind of crazy. And then he told this story where he had shared a prison cell with Jim Baker. And been converted to Christianity and is a born-again Christian now. And, you know, we're skydivers. We're pretty cynical as it is, and we're sort of looking at him. But here's the deal. Roger Nelson was, without question, the most charismatic organizer I have ever witnessed in my life. We had this very poor attempt. It was underpowered. Some people had showed up and they had just, you know, I think Guy Manos, who was a big gun in those days, you know, movies, and he was a star in the sport at the time, and a couple of other people. And Roger was going to do it his way, and these guys left. So we were down. The current world record at the time was 200. We got it to a point where we were trying to build a 201 way, just to break the record. And we actually got that close. I was 2 slots over from a guy that you may remember, Jerry Bird, Wings of Orange, very, very famous skydiver in his day. But at any rate, we had just failed again. We'd been there all week. Right. And so everybody was like, why are we doing this? Let's just quit. Right. And Roger, in a minute and a half, 90 seconds, had everybody just jumping up and down, screaming, yeah, let's build this thing. And then we went up, and the spot was off because of clouds. I landed on a golf course somewhere, and the people were everywhere. No, fuck no. Oh. We didn't get close. Oh, I mean, we were one grip away from it on several tries before, but people got tired, you know.
Yeah, you get tired.
Yeah, I mean, the first world record I was on, Pat Dodgen got me involved in, and he was a pirate from Florida, and that was in 1990 with Blots R Us, Scotty Carbone. Yeah.
Hey, Waz, come on over here.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I love Scotty, dude. Yeah. Scotty saved my ass as ever hill.
Van Weideman. We actually had a guy killed on it. He was sitting across from me. Steve Woodford from Eloy.
He's sitting across from you in the Otter?
He was. Steve Woodward was in the same, not Otter. DC3,
DC3,
and the guy who died was sitting across from both of us, I think, in the DC3. And Steve and I have talked about this. I did his 10-weight team one year. That was the year he didn't win.
Good job, Jeff.
Damn. So at any rate, all I saw was wham! Somebody, he was bleeding from the nose. He had sinuses were bleeding. And it had come up, you had to have like a frap hat on or a Protec or something. And it got over his goggles. He couldn't see. He flew 50 feet over 154-person formation. And he just got in the burble, landed on a girl's back, almost took her out of the formation, obviously. Right. But, you know, she wasn't quite the same after that event. And then I just saw him headed down through the center, on his back. He's obviously unconscious. And Scotty Carbone and Van Weideman chased him down to a Grand. There was one AAD on the entire load.
Yeah, I'm saying they're not even fucking.
Yeah, they weren't even in practical use.
Probably an FXC.
FXC was what it was. It was on the reserve. One guy had the FXC. And everybody then, let's stay away from that guy because that FXC might go off prematurely and kill somebody. And that's why we didn't wear that stuff. Right. And it wasn't until Cypress came along and they just seemed to be pretty rock solid. And
they were a little glass vial that's going to explode if you're going too fast. That was a fucking crazy system, dude.
Yeah, I know.
It looked like a GoPro.
I didn't.
It looked like a GoPro in your fucking right. If you guys don't know what an FXC is, it's one of the original AEDs. And it looked like a GoPro on your housing. And it wasn't even digital. There wasn't a battery.
No, you had to dial. It was totally analog.
Yeah, you dialed it up
that's
to
right.
your altitude or
and you dialed it because you could use it with students.
Right.
And I worked for a guy named Bill Jones. Great guy. I love Bill Jones. Hope he gets in the Hall of Fame someday. He certainly deserves it. I worked for him at Taft, and I did. He taught me a lot. He was a mentor to me. He was an old Air Force guy who used to do some secret stuff, and just a great guy. And his deal, his entire family is in the skydiving business. Jeff Jones, Sherry Jones, Shelly Jones.
I know Shelly.
Yeah.
Blonde hair Shelly?
Yeah, blonde
I know
hair Shelly.
Shelly.
Yeah. No.
Holy fuck, I know Shelly Jones.
Yeah, no,
Eloy. I know Shelly from Eloy.
Right. I mean, I worked for pretty much everybody in the Jones family. And so I came up there after I had, I went
That's
up.
fucking crazy.
I went to Eloy and I was on the Jones family 10-way Speedstar team 1 year, and I was like the redheaded stepchild on the team.
Right. Awesome,
you know, but you know they've been great to me over the years, and I love them dearly. They're some of my dearest friends. But in any case, I can't remember what the hell I was.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's okay.
We're going to review this crazy fucking video and have a little bit of background on it.
Okay, tell me.
It came out. Normally we do a Friday Freak Out. Shout out to Andrew Reves and team. Jointheteam.com. Hashtag join the team. I love skydiving.org is the original site. Thank you for compiling everything. I'm glad you're being successful. I'm glad you're going to the stars, bro. You've done it right. We're not doing a Friday Freak Out tonight. This video isn't on Friday Freak Out yet. I got it before you did, doggy. Hey, but everybody got it today. You just haven't posted it yet.
Where did it happen?
It sounds like, I want to say Russia, Poland.
Okay.
Or maybe you recognize it. Oh, we're not going to get
I
it done.
didn't.
Yeah.
I looked at the comments to try and discover where it came from, and they weren't in English.
Right. So what it sounds like after some investigation is they're running 2 planes.
Right.
Because everybody wanted to blame the guy.
Right.
That was that fucking guy. And so what happens, guys, if you haven't seen it, it's fun jumper in free fall. He's doing his thing, and he falls through a tandem canopy. And we get both views, and it's fucking crazy because he rips the canopy, and they have to chop. But here's the deal. I was explaining to somebody at the drop zone today, Jess. Shout out to Jess at Skydive Lone Star. Shout out Joe Johnson, everybody at Skydive Lone Star. Me and my boys play a lot of video games. And we watch people play video games, right? And at the end of some of my rounds, you can watch your teammates. So you're dead, but you can watch your teammates and you can still like communicate with them, right? And these are shoot 'em up games.
From beyond.
From beyond, right? So sometimes you're watching them and you don't know what they're looking at, but the bad guy's right there on the right. You can fucking see him clearly. They don't see him. And you got to type in, hey, he's on the right. And then you see him go, oh shit, and then he shoots. But it's on the screen, but he doesn't see it.
Are they shooting into nothing from their point of view, or do they see him when you tell them?
Okay, so sometimes there's supplies on the ground.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're looking at the map or something. You can tell they're not aware that there's a guy running directly at them.
Okay.
But we all see the same thing. It's just their attention is not there. So when I was explaining this to them, I was like, hey, because they're like, oh, he should have saw that canopy and tried to track or something. Fuck, you got milliseconds to decide that, for one. But two, if you're clear on your jump, because you got out of a different plane than these people, you don't know that it's the pilot's fault, is what I'm going to say. It's the pilot's fault, or the ground communication's fault. Somewhere communication fell apart between these loads because he's on top of the tandems from the previous load. Right? He's probably the first jumper out, solo belly, of the second load because the tandems are out last.
Right.
So he didn't fucking see him. Otherwise, he would have done something different. Because this has happened in Skydive Dallas. Fuck, what are their names? You guys know your fucking names. Oh, I know you guys. They're my friends, right? But one dude tried to deploy in this situation and still went through the canopy, but he tried to deploy. And it happened again a couple years later, and this girl tried to overtrack, and her feet hit the top and tore it, but she didn't get hurt. Nobody got hurt.
Right.
But I believe, from what I've heard in the past, it's not to the last fucking... You don't see it coming, obviously. No matter what your GoPro sees. GoPro's a wide angle.
Yeah. Okay. So it's clear now because I did see that video when it got posted, and I think it actually got posted on Skydive Spaceland San Marcos, and I think Thomas wrote a few things about it. This is what happens when you're running 2 airplanes or something like that. It might be. I might be wrong about that.
Probably. Shout out Tom Hughes.
Yeah. So I have to say I've been in that situation before, but I had plenty of time. Usually when you're running 2 airplanes, you'll offset one
or something,
or something like that, or there's enough vertical separation, but tandems open high. I mean, tandems will frequently open at 5,000 feet, sometimes 6.
That's protocol, son.
That's the protocol. But I've been break off, tracking away, and I go, oh, tandems.
Tandems.
And so you just, you change your angle as early as you possibly can, and it's never been an issue for me. But I've had Yoshi get on me. Yoshi.
Oh, really? Well, you're an old school motherfucker.
Well,
what were you dumping at back in the Marine Corps Okinawa joint?
Well,
2,500? Were you waving off at 2?
Oh, my God. We used to, before squares, breaking off at 2.5 was not unknown. What are we out of?
Okay.
We need to do the video. Let's do the video.
Breaking off at 2.5.
Yeah, we did stupid stuff.
Yeah, you're
Lots of
fucking
stupid
mind.
stuff. Nah, we did that.
All you guys. Yeah, we did that.
We did that.
Crazy fuck. So, yeah, Yoshi got on you.
Yeah.
Hey, and if anybody
he's close.
Yeah, this is into the video.
Okay.
Hey, if anybody, so they show a couple, this is great editing, guys. Thank you for doing this. Look at this shit. Boom, son. Oh my God! So it's a giant tandem canopy in your face, dog, in free fall. You hit it, dude's flipping out of control. He doesn't know what happened. I don't think he ever saw it.
I can't believe he's not broken.
I think he was looking forward and never even saw it because he does nothing to change his body position before it happens. He doesn't even brace. He's in free fall as normal, like checking his altitude.
Right.
So here's a tandem view. Homeboy waves off, he dumps, everything's good. They're having a conversation. He's like, hey, how was it? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. No, you're doing your tandem gig.
Yeah. And here's the deal. If anybody's confused of why tandems dump high, there's a lot of reasons. But if you got outside video, you got to give the guy a chance to open. There's a lot of reasons tandems dump high, man. Listen to the experience. Safety. So these two are having a nice ride over a beautiful bay.
And he's still got a square canopy with...
Shout out to that fucking manufacturer.
No kidding.
He just took a skydiver, and that thing looks like you might be able to land that motherfucker.
It does. I looked at that.
Yeah.
I said, but, basic training.
But why?
Blue sky above,
Yeah.
cut away.
But he had his center 2 cells were ripped in a couple parts. It looked like his foot went through one part, and then his body went through the other, and he flipped off of it. All I see right now in the video is a girl has a bloody nose. She had some big black glasses on, and then she ends up with a bloody nose. Boom! And then the editor puts in both views so you can see in real time.
See the timing on it.
Holy shit. So, this is out of our hands as fun jumpers. This situation, I mean, yes, head on a swivel. Dude, I do a barrel roll. I check for all my friends. But if somebody from a previous load, dude, it's so much. There's a lot going on. How do we avoid this, Jeff?
Well,
it's up to the organizers, right?
Well, in
It's
terms
not
of
us.
the tandem, the 2 airplanes and the tandem thing, I mean, that's a matter of offsetting jump runs, making
Pilots,
sure that that's
communicating.
more of a pilot issue, I think. But as a jumper, if you really don't want to die, you really need to be completely as situationally aware as you can.
Hyper
situationally aware.
Hyper.
Because it's skydiving. Yes. You're gonna see stuff happen.
Yes.
I mean, I've done a lot of big ways.
Right.
And on big ways, I've had close calls.
Of course. How do you not?
How do you not? I've had spinning malfunctions on big ways. And I've...
In an ocean of people.
You're tracking away, and I tend to track really flat.
Right.
And so somebody's down here, you go, okay. And they just,
assholes.
this thing, you're just going, oh my God, come on.
Please.
Why are you doing that? There's nobody below you. What are you trying to avoid?
In their mind, they're like, I'm killing it. I'm killing it.
That's right.
I'm killing it.
and I've caused those situations in tracking groups sometimes because I'll be in the second wave and I would have to say I have a fair track. We break off in tracking groups.
So
you have the outer.
Groups. Yeah, the outer group.
And then here comes the second group, which usually breaks off 500 feet below. And I will unintentionally catch up with the first wave. And I'll go, oh my God, I've created this situation.
And here's the deal with the first wave. Those guys go long and fucking hard and they
low.
Get 2 out all the time. First wave always gets 2 out. How many 2 outs have you had, Jeffy?
One. No, just once.
Holy fuck.
From
Cypress Fire.
I don't want to admit that.
That's
all. Was.
It had to be.
Was.
Either that or you went out of sequence.
I was so no. It was just pure stupidity, dude.
Big wave?
It was this situation,
Uh-huh.
and finally got it clear.
Uh-huh.
Person pulled, I pulled, and so I looked at my. Oh, it's so stupid. It's just so stupid. I can't believe it. So I looked at my altimeter after I settled out, and I go, "Oh, please, no, 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 no!" Pop! There goes the Cypress. I was under a full main, and then the Cypress fired, and I just could not.
It's over.
It's over, and I got a biplane, and I flew the biplane
You got a
in.
biplane?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless. At least you had a biplane.
This was on a Texas state record in
jeez.
Houston.
Spaceland. Or
Spaceland.
It was Rasharon.
No, yeah, it
Not
was in
Eagle.
Rasharon. And I should have been cut immediately.
Uh-huh.
It's probably embarrassing to.
The load. Well, it
Well,
happened a big
the
way.
organizer was Tom Jenkins, and
Okay.
Tom's dead.
Yeah. Shout out
I
Tom and his
would
family.
say God rest his soul, but I'm an atheist, so I
Okay.
can't.
So
Well, I can't.
hopefully his soul has rest.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
whatever.
Right.
But in any case, they were shorthanded, and if they were going to
let
get,
you on.
so they didn't cut me, and I
So
had to
how-
borrow.
Oh, you had to borrow,
I had to borrow a
'Cause they
rig
didn't-
from
they didn't-
somebody.
yeah.
They didn't cut me, and they probably should have. I was just absolutely negligent in that, and I put somebody else in danger to boot. You know, that's why we didn't wear cypresses in the bad old days, because we said, you know, if I kill myself, okay, I can
I'll deal
deal.
with that, but I
I'll
don't
deal
want
with
a
that.
malfunction
But
to take
the
somebody else
last
out.
thing I want to do is take another human being out.
Right,
I just,
it's still true today, you fucks. That should
it
be
is
the rule.
totally the
Yeah,
rule.
go fucking do whatever you want, dude, but don't take us out.
I'm not really
Go
afraid of
flow.
being dead, but I
Right.
would hate to be alive knowing that
That
I'd
I
cause
fucking
somebody
did.
else to
Oh,
be
Lord.
dead.
Dude, I don't want anybody to get hurt doing this shit.
Me either. I love the sport. I hope to hell it doesn't kill me or any more of my friends, but
Right.
I've been in
You
it
and me
long
both.
enough that, I mean, we've both lost people,
Right.
and
It's-
it's
yeah.
the nature of the beast. You tried it. I mean, I've been an AFF instructor since 1990.
Nice.
You
yeah.
know, I still got a rating, but I'm giving it up this year
Why would you do that?
because I don't want to do it anymore.
Well, you don't have to do it, but you can.
No, I don't want to.
I know. Hey, I gave it my tandem rating. Everybody's
I
like,
gave
dude,
mine up too.
They're like, dude, you don't have to do it. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it.
The only rating I'm
not
thinking about
fucking doing
keeping
it.
is my pro rating.
Really?
Because the pro rating, well, the only reason is if I can persuade them, because I've done lots of demo jumps, is Skydive San Marcos, Spaceland, and thank you so much for taking over ownership
Right.
of that property. They've teamed up with Texas State, and they're reinstituting demo jumps into Texas State
So if-
football
If the
stadium.
professor
I would love
can fly in
oh
with the
my
flag or the
God,
ball.
That would be cool. That would be so cool.
Dude, your steam in the student body would shoot through the
I mean, I
fucking-
can live without it. I'm happy.
Yeah, but why not
But-
get
but
it? Get
I
that
mean,
glory, son.
like, come
So
on.
why go learn to skydive?
Huh?
Why go learn to skydive?
In life, you have life is an absolutely wonderful jewel, a trillion to trillion one shot for each of us.
Right.
And then it's over. So, 4.5 billion years of planet Earth, 13.785 billion years of the universe evolving, and then that trillion to trillion chance of one sperm, one egg getting together, and you happen. This is your shot to have the most magnificent experience that you can in life. Now, there are a lot of ways to have that, and just being alive is absolute magic.
And being grateful for
And
it.
being grateful for it, enjoying it, and trying to do some good in the world. Try and help other people have that same kind of experience. But there are levels of experience that are sort of ordinary and mediocre in the grand scheme of the human condition. And skydiving is this opportunity to fill your brain with magical vision, when magic, the only real magic in the world is the magic that you create out of your life, and having that fulfillment and satisfaction. I have, in my 46 or so years of skydiving, built up a catalog of memory that lets me know that whatever I screwed up in my life, however many mistakes that I have made, my life has been rich with experience. And it has so many of them that I can't count them. And because you have more than one experience on every skydive. Right. It's been a community that gave me a home, people that hired me, who trusted me with the lives of other people to do this. And every time you skydive, you're being trusted with the lives of other human beings, including your own.
I had students this morning. It could happen. You know it on the way up, but you do your best.
Yeah, you do your best to keep people alive, keep yourself alive. But when you're focused on other people and keeping them alive, that is your focus. And you trust yourself to do what you need to do for yourself. But it's all your focus is take care of this person.
Right.
And I love that. And I loved being an instructor. But I just physically...
the grind is
tough. The grind. I mean, tandems wore me out. I played football way longer than I should, and that kind of cut into my longevity in the sport.
Before we close this out and you go to the book, I want to ask this question because I think it's relevant and serious. You've done the jumps. You've done the demos. You've done movie star shit, big ways. The skydivers over 60 jumps, 232 people, 300 people. You've been doing this shit since the 70s, man. You've been killing it, right? But you're still going. And you say, the pain is fucking crazy of getting older, and you've taken care of yourself with the footballs when you're down,
I don't regret martial arts training, but
why do you keep jumping then? If you've already done it, why do you keep showing up? I see you all the time. Why are you still out there, Jeffy?
No, I still love it. I'm still in love with free fall. I'm still in love with I'm in love with the visions that it puts in my head. I also love the community. Not always. I mean, skydiving, as we all well know, has its share of assholes, like every other community.
I being one of them.
Oh, I'm one too sometimes. Hopefully not all the time. Right? Yeah, that's the call. Hey, asshole! What? But I still enjoy it. Now, I'm so closer to the end than I am the beginning, and I do see the end of it. But when I'm done, there's no going back, and it's hard to keep my skill set. So I'm not, like I said before, I am, by all the training and the working out, which is a natural thing for me to do anyway, I'm trying to die much more slowly, and I'm also trying to keep this going as long as I can, because when it's over, it's over.
And you know what? A lot of us don't get to choose our last jump. I've only heard the story of 2 people doing it, right? 2 people going, they're older. One dude was in Zephyr Hills. His Cypress kept firing, and they're like, going to ground him, so he's going to do one more. That's fucking awesome, because a lot of times we pack up our shit from the DZ and we leave like we're coming back next weekend, and you never do.
Yeah.
Something happens, somebody gets pregnant, you get fired, life happens, you have to move.
Well, Sam Harris said that he said, you never know when you're going to do something for the last time. And it may never occur to you. I hope that I actually do know when I'm making my last skydive, and that I can make it special, celebrate it. I mean, if it's a skydive, it'll be special in some way just because it's a skydive. But I hope it's not a surprise like, ow.
Right, yeah, right.
That's
No,
not
right,
the
right.
surprise I'm looking for. But it might be.
Right.
But I'm here to say on the WazzyCircus that if that is the way that my life ends, I have lots of regrets, but skydiving isn't one of them.
Not at all, buddy.
Not at all.
All right, one more question as an
Yeah,
atheist, and
you
we're
bet.
not going to dwell on this too long.
Yeah.
Have you not seen God in a sunset under canopy over Texas skies with all
I
your
see
friends?
I see natural beauty. I think that the natural world it fills me with awe. To say that I'm not a spiritual person would be wrong. I think I'm a deeply spiritual person. I think that I love discovery, and I love that the human race has gotten itself to the point where it can start to let go of these ideas that have been filling in for reality, for what's actually going on. Now, we'll never know. I can't say that there's no God. I just can say with very clear confidence that the evidence to support that notion just isn't there. Show me the evidence and I'm in.
As a
But
scientist, well-spoken as a scientist.
I just don't see it.
Okay, so we're going to read from...
Yeah.
No shit, there I was. Thought I was going to die. Skydiver stories compiled by Tim Long and Doug Garr. What a wonderful book. Thank you guys for doing that. Thank you for tuning in to the WazzyCircus Radio.
So this was written by Mary Stage, and the title is So Low. Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Okay. It seems like my jumping days were kind of sedate compared to some of the wild and crazy antics in the sky I've heard from my fellow skydivers. I did have a few close calls, such as when I had to raise my knees to my chin to avoid some electrical wires, barely clearing them. Also, I had a night jump that scared the shit out of me. That jump was on August 19th, 1978 at Paris out of a DC-3. I jumped solo and was prepared and briefed by Bob Zelaya before the jump. I had all the glow sticks and chem lights, everything I would need to successfully complete the night dive. I was hyped up and ready for the first nocturnal leap of my career. After I exited, I was blown away by the bright stars, close enough to touch. However, almost all of my lighting gear blew away too soon. So I was mostly in pitch black, not able to read my altimeter. That kind of unnerved me. But I figured I'd been falling for about 20 seconds, so at about 2,500 feet, I checked for other jumpers, saw that I was alone, and pulled my main. It opened without a hitch. Everything was perfect. I was again enjoying the view, looking around at other jumpers in the distance, and began to focus on the landing area. All of a sudden, I heard shoo sound not 10 feet away from me. Someone was still in free fall. I finally heard a canopy opening not far from me. I couldn't believe someone was so close to me. Had almost hit my canopy and opened so low. It had to be below 500 feet. She had a very short canopy ride, practically non-existent. Yes, we all landed with no problems. I chatted with the gal who opened so low. She said she didn't know where she was or at what altitude. She just did a Hail Mary opening. Well, I loved the experience, but losing the lighting gear freaked me out, as did the close call with other jumper. So there were a few seconds that when I felt, okay.
No shit.
No shit. There I was.
Thought I was going to die.
Thought I was going to die. So sorry. Screwed up the last bit.
Oh, you're all good. It's
And that's Mary Stage.
Yeah. Jeff Mcvey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, WazzyCircus Radio. Learn to skydive. It'll change your life and save mine. Check us out. Peace.
Thanks, Waz.
Yeah, man. Fucking anytime, Jeff. Love.
Yeah, let's go! Woo!